Do you still believe that you can accomplish this goal?
No question.
That is the certainty that I was hoping to hear, right? And that I knew I would be surprised if I didn't hear that certainty. Although I realize that for those listening, there's going to be days where you wake up and you're struggling. You don't want to get after it. You question yourself. There's a lot of doubt. You might have people in your ecosystem, maybe people you're living with, that are the naysayers, that maybe are trying to protect you. And so they're telling you just take an easier path. But this is when you have to remind yourself why you chose to do this. I don't want you spending the bulk of your time. You have, what do you have? 5 hours a day? Just
Roughly.
Roughly,
Yeah.
right? You're a husband, you're a father. Those are your primary responsibilities, in addition to providing and making this happen. So with the time you have, you can't be spending 20% of it preparing for one phone call. Welcome back to the Storage Wins podcast, where I am working with my friend and coaching client Dan Wenzel as we are on a quest. We're on a challenge to help him buy his first storage facility by November 21st. And I've had people reaching out to me asking like, hey, how's this working for you? Like, what if he doesn't buy his first storage facility? And what if he does? And so you guys are on a quest and on a journey with us. I highly encourage you, if you haven't checked out episodes 1, 2, and 3, after this one, you want to go back, because in episode 1, Dan really goes deep into his story, why he chose storage, the personal reasons driving and moving him forward, his why. He gets really personal and vulnerable, and I really want to credit and commend Dan for just putting himself out there on the Storage Wins podcast and allow you guys to follow alongside his journey as I coach him live. Episode 2, we talked about Dan's freedom number, and that is something that I want to really encourage you guys, that if you don't have a freedom number, if you don't know why you're doing this, you need to gain clarity around your freedom number, and then start to put some action dates around the things that you want to accomplish. So we nailed down the date, November 21st, to have Dan purchase his first storage facility. We started to clearly define his buy box, what I call the storage deal avatar. And then last week, we talked about, on episode 3, I should say, we talked about we got really tactical and granular with Dan's daily playbook, right? What are the things that Dan needs to be doing on a daily and weekly basis in order to put himself in position to close on his first facility on or before November 21st? So things like having meaningful conversations with storage owners, with what I call key people, right? Investors, wholesalers, lenders, bankers, etc. The daily underwriting process, so that he can get crystal clear and identify the potential deals and the opportunities out there versus the things that he needs to pass on. Making weekly offers, right? In order to score runs, you got to step up to the plate. In order to hit the home run, you got to swing the bat. So, and then we talked about what are the key habits to build that unstoppable momentum. So episode 4 here, we're just going to continue to build. Each and every single time that you hear a conversation with myself and Dan, we're focused on building. And oftentimes, life is going to happen when you commit to this, when you commit to storage. And Dan, I think, will be the first to back me up on this, is life is going to kick you in the gut. It's going to punch you. You're going to not get knocked down. And you have to plan for that. You have to understand that whenever you commit to accomplish something big in life, you're going to be met with resistance. So we're going to talk about wins. We're going to talk about challenges. We're going to focus on results and make sure that we're building on progress. And sometimes that means hitting the pause button and addressing limiting beliefs or mindset challenges. So I want to continue to equip Dan with the tools and resources he needs, but more importantly, just focus on building his confidence, making some tweaks and some refinements along the margins, so to speak, so that he can continue to build, move forward, gain that momentum, because progress equals happiness. So Dan, with that being said, man, now that I've kind of gone through that overview summary, like, brother, talk to me. Where are you at? I want to start off with wins, and then we can lead into just a progress update, and then any specific challenges that you might be facing.
Yeah, well, thinking of wins, I've been underwriting some more deals, and I've identified several that I'd like to make offers on. I I haven't made as many offers as I had planned, but I've identified several that I'd like to make offers on. So
Okay.
I can run those by you, see how the offers look, and hopefully get those over as soon as possible.
Okay.
Um, I've identified some other good leads that I'm going to keep on top of, owners who say they're open to selling. And yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty much it from the week.
Okay, fantastic. Before I ask you some specific questions on the offers you've made and the ones you've identified, have there been in the last week or so since our last conversation, have there been any either mindset challenges, hiccups, roadblocks, like anything that you feel like is slowing your progress and momentum down here?
Those could almost be two different things. The mindset shifts, I think, I definitely still have some mindset struggles on trying to achieve getting my first facility. Um, it's been longer than I anticipated this would take, and that still is a little devil on my shoulder that it's reminded me of that. So
Okay. Before we get into the tactical, I think it's important that we focus on the mindset, because no matter what we do, Dan, and I think you know this, man, no matter how tactical we get, no, I could literally fly to where you are and work alongside you. But if in between those 6 inches of your ears, if there's a block there, it's gonna get in the way, right? It's almost like we're trying to run a race with weights around our ankles. We're just not gonna move as fast. We're gonna get tired quicker, and that's gonna cause us to slow down and eventually stop. So I think it's important that number one, to your credit, you've identified that hey, there's some growth that still needs to happen from a mindset perspective, right? Which is why personal development work, feeding yourself the right types of content, surrounding yourself with the right people, like storage wins, that has to happen on a daily basis. There's never a moment in which you should not be surrounded with the right people. In other words, surround yourself with the right people in the right environment. The books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the conversations you have, all need to be uplifting and feeding your confidence, helping you grow personally. Specifically, what are the mindset struggles and challenges that you're alluding to? What are the things that still feel, you called it the devil on your shoulder? Define exactly what that looks like.
it's it's the voices in my head that are saying, just go get a W-2 job and go work for somebody else, and you've been at this long enough,
Hmm.
and you haven't gotten what you thought you would. So maybe it's time to, yeah, again, go get a job.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's it's a heavy reminder to know that I've put as much time into it as I have,
Yeah.
and haven't gotten where I thought I'd be so far.
Okay. So right now, the expectation you had when you got into this was that this was going to happen a whole lot sooner than what it's taking you, right? And that's, disappointment happens, I think, when expectations aren't being met with ourselves and with others. And so right now, and I've shared this with you in the past, but we haven't talked about this on the podcast. And by the way, man, thank you for being just brutally honest, because I know it's probably not easy to share on a podcast like, hey, I got this monkey on my back. I got this devil on my shoulder, the way that you explained it. And I had this voice telling me to basically quit, give up, and go get a job, right? Because you set this expectation that this was going to happen for you a whole lot sooner, and yet you haven't tasted success, right? You don't know what the champagne tastes like yet, because you haven't been able to pop the cork and say, hey, I closed on my first deal. Do you still believe that you can accomplish this goal? Do you believe that it's possible for you?
No question.
Okay, fantastic. That is the certainty that I was hoping to hear. right? And that I knew I would be surprised if I didn't hear that certainty. Although I realize that for those listening, there's going to be days where you wake up and you're struggling. You don't want to get after it. You question yourself. There's a lot of doubt. You might have people in your ecosystem, maybe people you're living with, that are the naysayers, that maybe are trying to protect you. And so they're telling you just take an easier path. But this is when you have to remind yourself why you chose to do this, right? For your kids, for your wife, for your family, for yourself, right? You don't have to prove yourself to anybody, right? But you set out on a journey, and not only have you invested money, but you've invested time and energy. And so I think you owe it to yourself to continue to see this through, because I know you know that this is possible. You've seen others do it, and they're not any smarter than you. They're not more gifted than you or more special, and some have more resources, some don't. I have zero doubt you can do this. And the moment that you start believing you can't is the moment that quitting becomes a possibility for you. That's what I won't allow you to do. So it's okay to sometimes go through it mentally. It's okay to sometimes be like, man, should I just go get a job? But I think every winner at some point has had that voice in their head. The difference, and the ones that separate those that accomplish what they're after and those that don't, are simply the ones that keep going versus the ones that stop. Okay? So if you had any doubt whatsoever that you could do this, let this be a reminder that you can 1000% do this. I wouldn't have taken you on as a coaching client. I wouldn't be putting myself out there. You wouldn't be putting yourself out there if we both didn't believe that this was a possibility for you. So that devil, by the way, I think is also literal, right? That voice is real. It's going to tell you, hey, dude, like, don't do this. Like, this doesn't work for you, or this is not going to work for you, or you're too stupid, or you're too this or that, or your skin color, or your location. Like, it's going to give you a gazillion reasons why you can't do this. Your job is to tune it out and tune up the voice and the voices that are encouraging you, saying you can do this. And so all we have to do, brother, is continue to feed ourselves from a personal development perspective and continue to show up and do the work even when we don't want to do the work. You've heard me say this before on our Storage Wins calls, but you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you're committed to. You are committed to this, and it's a greater reason than money. It's a greater reason than just yourself. Others are relying on you, and so we're going to see this thing through. Okay, and I need you to remind yourself, that's why having a strong why, and that's why having clearly defined goals that you read every single day, that you visualize, and then it's followed by that massive imperfect action. Okay, so this isn't meant to be a pep talk. It's just meant to be more of a reminder for you that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. What's not okay is to give in to that devil on the shoulder, that voice that tells you can't do this. You can 1000% do this. I believe in you. Everybody in the Storage Wins community believes in you. People following alongside this journey, I guarantee you, are rooting for you. You can 100% do this. Okay, so remind yourself of that on a daily basis. Continue to focus on those daily actions, those weekly actions we talked about last week. And you're going to have days in the future, by the way, that it's not like the last 5 minutes of what I've shared with you is supposed to be a magic elixir where, like, poof, that voice goes away. The voice is going to continue to be there because that's the voice's job. Your job is to quiet it down, turn the volume down on that voice, and turn the volume up that tells you you can do this, you are worthy, you're meant for greatness, and you're going to accomplish this goal. Because it's not rocket science. It just requires a commitment and relentless, consistent, massive, imperfect action.
Yep.
The only way this isn't going to work for you, man, and this is the last thing I'll share before we move on, or if you have any questions, the only way this doesn't work for you, Dan, is if you just let that voice overcome what I'm sharing with you now. To me, man, one of the greatest tragedies is living with regret. Don't put yourself in a position where in the future you look back and say, man, did I really give myself the best shot to win? Like, why did I stop? And by the way, I know that's not going to happen because you're not going to stop. you've already gotten through the toughest part. I mean, you've been at this for a bit now, and that's okay. Your path was meant to look a little bit different. So just make sure you don't compare yourself to others, because that's what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy, right? If you're going to look at others, look to them for inspiration and encouragement. Don't look to them as a measuring stick. It's not a contest or a competition with them. You're only in competition with yourself here.
Yep.
Any thoughts, reflections, takeaways, anything jump out at you there?
It's gold. All of that is helpful to hear.
Okay. You believe it?
Yeah.
That's the most important part. Again, my words aren't a magic elixir. What's most important is not what I say or anybody else says, it's what you believe. I'm just hoping to make sure that my job is for you to borrow my confidence in your ability to do this. I know you can do this. You just got to stay persistent. I don't care how many times your offers get rejected, denied. I don't care how frustrated you get sometimes when you're not sure if you're structuring a deal the right way, or if it is a deal, or if it's not a deal, or maybe I should have said this to the seller and maybe I approached it wrong. All that's okay. What's not okay is stopping, quitting, or giving up.
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
Yeah, all those points you made about the offers too. It's like you know exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I know because a lot of people experience that. You don't think early on in my journey, man, like I felt a lot of what you were sharing. And sometimes I feel, whether it's guilt or shame or like, man, like why are they succeeding? And why am like, dude, I've had all those thoughts. I can relate to what you're going through. Maybe our paths look a little bit different, and that's okay. We're not all meant to walk the same path. There's a lot of different roads to success. It doesn't have to look one particular way. I think if you buy into the myth that it needs to look a certain way, or if you need to follow this person's path or that person's path, that's when you set yourself up for failure. Okay? The fact that you are overcoming so much when you do succeed, and I highlight and underscore the word when, that champagne is going to taste so good. You're going to have a story to tell. You're going to be able to inspire others. There is going to be somebody down the road that is walking a similar path to you, that you are meant to speak and breathe life and energy and inspiration into their journey, because they feel like giving up. Because that devil on the shoulder is getting larger and larger for them. That voice is getting amplified. And then you're going to be speaking life into them, sharing something similar probably to what I'm sharing, but personalizing it with your story. So just put your fingers on that knob of the volume, man. Turn that voice down, right? If not, just turn it off, right? And many times, believe it or not, and I'm hoping that those coming alongside us on this journey can hear this, because maybe they need to hear this as well. We have the ability not just to like quiet down that noise, but it's a decision to turn it off and say, hey, I'm no longer going to let this voice dictate what I do and don't do. I'm no longer going to follow along with this BS narrative that either I'm not worthy, or I can't do this, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. It's all BS. That voice is meant to be there. Don't listen to it. Okay? So, dude, hopefully that didn't sound like a pep talk, because that wasn't my intention. I'm speaking from the heart here, and I know you can do this, dude. So it's okay to have those feelings, and I want you to come on here when you're struggling and say that, because sometimes we need to address the mindset before we're able to move on to the tactical. Is that fair?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Okay, man. All right, beautiful. So let's start to get a little bit more tactical here. Specifically, because a friend of mine, Mark, says data, not drama, right? And basically what he means by that is like, give me specifics. You said when you started off with wins, you said that you have made a certain number of offers. Specifically, how many offers have you made in the last week? You're smiling, so that tells me, okay. You smiled, so I knew the answer was 0 or 1. Okay, so you've made 0 offers. Okay, 0 offers. Okay.
Yeah.
How many offers? So this is now week 4 of the podcast, right? So in the last 4 weeks, even though this was the start of the 4th week, let's say last 3 weeks, how many offers have you made?
4.
Okay. So you've made 4 offers in 3 weeks. Okay. Got it. Specifically, why do you think, if you had to put your finger on why you only sent 0 offers, and again, I need brutal honesty here. The best way I can help you is if I know exactly what's going on. Why 0 offers? Were you out goofing off? Just didn't feel like working? Was it because you didn't have enough opportunities? Was it because you were intimidated to make an offer? Because you thought, I need the real. What contributed to you not getting an offer out in the last 7 days?
I've been having conversations with sellers.
How many conversations?
Not as many as I would like. I've started tracking it, but I'd have to go back through my notes. It's
okay.
I wasn't keeping it on the KPI sheet tracker.
Okay, key performance indicators. Okay, so for everybody listening along, you are in business. Whatever business you run, storage or otherwise, you need to know the handful of numbers, what we call the KPIs, the key performance indicators, that are the biggest drivers of you ultimately accomplishing the goal you want. So every business boils down to certain KPIs, and those KPIs in large part tell you where you're at, right? It's the temperature in the water. It's the gauge that tells you. And if you don't have meaningful conversations and you don't make offers and you're not connecting with key people, if you're not looking at deals, it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed and buy a storage facility. So, and by the way, this applies to any business. When we had our income roller coaster months in the wholesaling business, when we had bad months, right? I would always ask my team, okay, let's dig into the data for the last 90 days, right? And oftentimes that will tell the story. We didn't go on as many appointments. We didn't make as many offers. Maybe our marketing, we didn't send as many letters out or made as many outbound calls. So that's Dan. The first thing I want you to do is, going forward, I need a commitment from you that you will know these specific KPIs. Okay? How many leads, how many new leads were generated? Okay? How many meaningful conversations did you have? And that's kind of a 2-parter. Meaningful conversations with storage owners, and then meaningful conversations with key people. What are key people? Storage wholesalers, bankers, private lenders, potential equity partners. Anybody that can be a key part of you closing your first storage deal, I would consider. So you're going to track both of those meaningful. You're going to track how many deals did you analyze and underwrite or evaluate, and then how many offers did you make. From an acquisitions perspective, which is where the bulk of our time and energy is being spent right now, we're not really talking too much about like best practices when it comes to managing and operating a storage facility. We're not talking about rate management and all this other type of stuff. That will come. Right now, we're focused on phase 1, which is really the marketing and acquisition side of the business. Those are the main KPIs that at any given point, if I ask you those questions, hey, Dan, how many meaningful conversations did you have in the last 7 days, in the last 30 days? How many deals did you underwrite? How many offers did you make? You need to be able, within like 15 seconds max, be able to tell me a specific number. Can you commit to that moving forward?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, awesome. That's going to help you tremendously, man. Because when you don't know, when you're fuzzy, that's part of the problem, right? B, that's going to drain your confidence account, right? That's when the voice starts to get amplified, because you're like, oh, I don't know this. And then you feel lost. It starts to raise too much uncertainty. So whenever you're not satisfied with the results that you have, go back to the data. Don't go to the drama. Go back and look at your KPIs. So if you don't make any offers, again, it's going to be challenging, especially that you're, correct me if I'm wrong, nothing's changed, right? Like you're still aimed at doing this without putting any of your money into the deal. Like right now, we talked about in episode 1, this is your main focus. Like you don't have a job right now. So you're looking to get these deals funded creatively using other people's money. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And that's totally doable. It's 1,000% doable. And it's going to require that you're tracking your KPIs and that you're consistent with these numbers. Now, so 0 offers in the last 7 days. We got off track, but I thought it was important. Let's get back on track now. What was the biggest driver behind you not getting any offers out? So you said you didn't have as many meaningful conversations, and then that's when we got off on that important tangent. Looking at what you have now, to the best of your ability, how many meaningful conversations did you have?
Several. I don't have an exact number.
Okay. Going forward, you will have a number, but would you say it was less than 10 or more than 10?
For the whole week, it was less than 10.
Less than 10. Less than 5, more than 5. And be honest, if it's less than 5, it's less than 5.
About 5.
Okay. So let's say you had one meaningful conversation a day per weekday. Let's just say, okay, where the goal is really minimum 3 to 5. Okay.
Probably so 5 or 7. Yeah.
Okay. So you had 5 to 7 meaningful conversations. What now? I'm going to ask you the same question, but instead of offers on meaningful conversations, was it because you just didn't put the time and energy in, or was it like, what was the reason you didn't have more meaningful conversations?
I've found that I'm not as maybe efficient or effective as I'd like to be. On Friday, I was during the week I was identifying facilities I wanted to make offers on. So to do that, I was going through some of my existing leads. You've mentioned before that almost every deal I either like or every facility that I have a good conversation with the owner about, I should be making an offer on those. So I was going back through thinking, what are some good leads I have that I probably should have made an offer on just to put a number in front of them in writing. And I identified several of those. I didn't call those facilities yet. But I found when I was analyzing some of those, just off of rough information that I have, even going through Google Maps and like counting how many units they have by looking at the 3D view or the street view. Because if I can get a unit mix, I can even get a ballpark of how many square feet they have and come up with, look at market rates and kind of get a feel for what the value of the facility might be. So I analyzed some of those properties, and I just found it took forever to analyze them and come up with offers that I feel like I can stand.
So this is, I think I've identified, I think, part of the issue. There is a lot of, we have to be as efficient as possible with the time that we do have, right? And I remember on a previous conversation that wasn't recorded, you shared with me that you spend a lot of time preparing to make a phone call, right? And I asked you, I'll let you kind of share, but I asked you, how much time are you preparing to have one phone call? Like, in other words, the prep work, the homework that you do before you even pick up the phone and make a call. Can you kind of share that?
Yeah, sometimes I'd spend an hour prepping notes for the call to try to make sure I have all the talking points and questions planned out. If it's one that I felt really good about, where I've had good conversations with the owners, and it's ones that I want to keep making a good impression on the owners, I would spend the time to have a cheat sheet for talking points and questions during those calls. And even if next time I called them, we didn't touch on all those points, at least I know for follow-up calls from that point, I had that prepared already.
And that's pretty much been your approach for as long as you've been trying to do this, or at least the majority, right? Okay.
Right.
You've heard.
That makes sense, though.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because remember I told you, remember when I first heard you say that, I said, okay, Dan, I need you to put on the virtual headgear. I'm going to put on my virtual boxing gloves, and we're going to go at it here, right? And I said that, with tough love. Definition of insanity, right? We've probably all heard this, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. In the time that you are preparing for a phone call, I've had 3 to 5 meaningful conversations. Or I've at least done several outbound calls. I've sent letters. I have done things to move the ball up the football field so that when I'm in the red zone, right, i.e. the last 20 yards about to score a touchdown, you haven't even kicked the ball off yet. Or you're on the sidelines, like looking at the playbook. So don't get me wrong. There is value in preparation, and I do believe preparation breeds confidence. You are totally over-preparing. Totally over-preparing. Completely. Right? I might spend 2 to 3 minutes, if that, looking at the notes of a conversation I had with a previous seller so that I could just reorient myself with their situation, especially if I haven't spoken to them in a bit. But I'm not over-preparing for a conversation, which, by the way, they might not even pick up. Right? So in the time that you spend 60 minutes preparing for a call in which they may or may not pick up the phone, and even if they do pick up, like, I want you to trust your ability to have a conversation with somebody. I think you're so focused on talking points and questions you're going to ask. I need you to be more focused on being in the moment, connecting with that person, and not overthinking what specific questions you're going to ask. At the end of the day, brother, if I had to simplify this, if I was going to coach my 10-year-old daughter through this, and I said, hey, baby, you're going to get on the phone, you're going to call this storage owner. I just want you to talk to them like a human being, right? Ask them questions about their facility. Ask them questions, more importantly, about their situation. And when it comes down to the brass tacks of the facility, really, bottom line, what I'm looking for is unit mix, current rates, right? And then if you can get some ideas on their current revenue, last year's revenue, right? Occupancy, fantastic. But bottom line, if I just got the unit mix and I got their rental rates, I have enough information to be able to put an offer in writing. Okay? I'm not trying for it to be the perfect offer. Now, I'm also not saying, hey, don't ask some more questions and collect some more details, but this shouldn't be an interrogation that lasts 45 minutes on a call. Like, I don't want you asking 101 questions, right? More importantly, I want you to establish connection and rapport with that person. I want you to understand why they would sell, right? What's the reason? I want you to ask just more about their situation. And then when it comes to the facility, unit mix, rates, hey, how old are the roofs? Has there been any repair work done, right? Because roofs obviously is going to be a big CapEx, capital expenditures. That's going to be a big line item for you, and you need to know a little bit about the roofs. One question I like to ask, hey, Mr. Seller, knowing what you know about your facility, if you were in my shoes and you were going to buy this facility, what do you think I might want to do to it? Or what do you think you would want to do to it, right? And let's say money wasn't an issue. I like to say that because it takes off that filter and that lens that, I wouldn't spend money on that. And by the way, I'm expecting to hear that their facility is the nicest thing since sliced bread. Like, I'm expecting to hear that. I'm still going to ask the question and dig in. And then I'm going to trust but verify. If and when I get it under contract, that's why we have a due diligence period. So I'm not concerned if my offer is going to be significantly off based on what he or she shared with me. So in recap, in summary, before we move on, preparation does breed confidence, but you are totally over-preparing. And to tie this back to the question about the meaningful conversations, I think you're doing the same thing in terms of counting the units online, measuring the facility. Brother, stop doing that. Stop doing that. It's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Trying to get offers over.
Get offers over without doing that. Before you do any of that, pick up the phone and call them. In the time that you're counting units online and measuring the facility, trying to come up with an offer, I have picked up the phone and either I've connected with them or I haven't. And if I connected with them, then I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, I don't know if you recall, this is Dan Wenzel. We spoke X time ago about your storage facility. Listen, I'm looking to buy one within the next 90 days or so. I'd like to send you an offer for your facility. Would you consider that? And by the way, the word, I literally just shot from the hip there, right? I might frame it or dress it up a little bit differently. But the point is that I want you to have that mentality of massive imperfect action. In 60 seconds or less, I've already put myself out there and said, hey, listen, I'd love to make you an offer on your facility. Would you consider that? It's going to be a yes or a no or a maybe. If it's a maybe or a yes, I'm going to say, fantastic. I just need another 60 seconds of your time to collect a little bit of information so that I could make you the best offer. Would you like me to make you the best offer I can or just any offer? Oh, obviously I'm going to want your best offer. Fantastic. In order for me to do that, I just need, just really quick, what's your unit mix, right? Like how many 5x5s, 5x10s, like how many do you have? By the way, side note, be prepared that they might not have that information offhand. I find that many times they don't. They might need to check with their office manager or they might need to look online. That's okay. But if they don't have it, what you can do is say, hey, do you know, and usually they do know this, they know their rates. Hey, what are your rates for the different units you have? Many times they'll be able to spit that info out. You're going to write that down. While I'm talking to them, sometimes I would check online to see if they have a website. And if they have a website with rates, I'll cross-check what they share with me with what's online. Hey, Mr. Seller, I noticed in the 10x10, you said that you guys you're asking 70 a month, but on your website, I see 60 a month. Did you recently increase the price? Oh, there's a story behind it, right? Get the real number. As an aside, I generally speaking will lean towards the lower of the numbers that I see. Why? Because when I evaluate the deal, I want to be as conservative as possible without being overly conservative to the point where like I don't even give myself a chance. Okay? So going back to what you shared, you said, hey, I'm trying to make offers. You can still make offers, just I want you to take a little bit of a different approach. I don't want you spending hours in the batting cage. I want you to like spend a little bit of time in the batting cage before the game, and then I want you to get in the game.
Yeah. And how do you make an offer you can stand behind without putting enough time into it that you can feel confident?
Fantastic question. A lot of that is going to be based and determined on the conversation you have with the seller and as much information as you're able to collect. Now, remember, and we went through this on one of our Storage Wins coaching calls with Kenny. Remember where he like walked us through like his process where he's able to, remember there was a week that he made, I don't know what, 8, 10, 12 offers or something. And you were like, dude, how'd you make so many offers in a week? And it's because he's doing the exact opposite of what you're doing in terms of he's not doing all this homework and analysis. He's getting an offer out based on the information he's collecting, poking around, looking online, which will take less than 5 minutes to look at the competitors in the area in a 5-mile radius, looking at the average of some of their rates and saying, hey, I'm seeing that across the board, the 10x10s are going for X price per foot, right? 70 cents a foot, right? I'm seeing that the majority of these are around 70 to 75 bucks a month for a 10x10. Whereas the seller I'm talking to is at $57 or $60, right? There's a gap there. There's a delta there, right? Now I can make an offer more based on what the facility is currently probably generating. And you might bake in a little bit of the potential upside, but you're not going to give him, you're not going to give him an offer based on what the facility would be doing with improved rates, because that's the work that you need to do. That's what you get paid for. If he wants a higher price, he or she, they need to do the value add. They need to lift the rate, raise the rates. They need to generate more revenue. So I think the takeaway so far, and by the way, I know our last couple of podcasts / coaching calls have gone over an hour, and I definitely want to keep these more tighter and compact here. But I think the big takeaway so far, Dan, is less overthinking. Don't feel the need to have the perfect offer. Yes, you want to make an offer that you feel good about. And I'm not telling you to just throw out a million offers and then tie up and get a bunch of facilities under contract and then go back and retrade, quote unquote, or renegotiate, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you have limited information, make an offer on the conservative side. The more information you can get, the more you can dial in that offer. But I don't want you spending the bulk of your time. You have, what do you have, 5 hours a day? Just roughly, yeah. Right? You're a husband, you're a father. Those are your primary responsibilities, in addition to providing and making this happen. So with the time you have, you can't be spending 20% of it preparing for one phone call.
So I've made a few dozen offers so far, and the feedback that I typically get is, whether it's from brokers or wholesalers or owners, is that I'm just way too conservative, and they're able to, if it's a broker, they're able to find another buyer at a much better price. And my offers don't even ever seem to be in the running. And it's like, well, I feel like I'm making conservative offers, but they're not, I mean, they're realistic. They're not like, like I'm offering $1 million on a $2 million facility. They're what it's worth usually, plus a little more, paying for that potential a little bit. But when that's the feedback that I consistently get, then I'm like, how do I differentiate myself from all these other offers they're getting? You know, owners are getting 10 phone calls a week, and they can get as many offers as they want because people are calling constantly.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a loaded one, and I don't think there's a black and white answer to that. Not without diving in and breaking down each specific situation. As an aside, and I'm at the risk of having you do something right now that's not needle moving, I'm going to say it anyways, but I don't want you spending a lot of time on this. Maybe once a month, it's worth it to go back on the offers that you've made and check if they have sold. Right? And go back 90, 120 days, 6 months back on the offers you've made and look and say, hey, has this facility sold? And if so, and if it did sell, what did it sell for? Now, you got to make an offer based on what works for you. And are you being overly conservative? It's possible. I've looked at some of your offers and I don't think so. Right? Are there some offers you've made that you were too on the conservative side and you had room to bump up? Probably, most likely, but I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is you're not getting many at bats. You've sent 4 offers in basically, let's call it 3 to 4 weeks, right? You haven't spoken to enough sellers. You know, like I asked you how many offers you made in the last 3 weeks. How many meaningful conversations would you say you've had in the last 3 weeks? You had 5 to 7 in the last week. What about the last 3 weeks? Less than 15?
My attention feels like it's been torn between these two things, making offers and having conversations.
Okay.
I've been focused on trying to get offers out the door, so I haven't been as focused on, because just because you're calling 20 owners doesn't mean
right.
3 of them are going to be open to a conversation and 1 of them is open to an offer. So if my focus has been getting offers out the door, it's been, okay, how quickly can I identify facilities, whether it's existing leads that I have, or broker deals or wholesale deals, to get some LOI sent.
So if you were, let's assume for a second that you could have both. Let's say we lived in an and world where you could have the number of meaningful conversations that you want to have, and you can send the number of offers that you wanted to send, right? Let's say I gave you this iPad pencil. and I said, hey, this is your magic wand, wave it at your ideal KPI scenario. What would it need to look like for you to be able to have the number of meaningful conversations that you commit to and send the number of offers? What would have to change about your current situation, how you're working, etc.?
Being able to make offers more quickly from the info that I have
Okay, so that's
would
one.
save me a lot of time.
Okay, write that down. Jot that down. So you've identified one potential solution. You've realized that your current process for coming up with an offer maybe is too cumbersome, maybe too complex, i.e., it just takes too much time. And so how do we simplify the process of you coming up with an offer to make? That's number one. What else?
Being able to, you had mentioned before about a multi-line dialer.
Okay.
So I can get more dials in a shorter amount of time,
Right.
more conversations in a shorter amount of time.
Because I think I asked you the question, and I don't know if this was on the podcast or not, but how many conversations, I asked you, how many dials are you making in an hour?
Right.
And it was
like this morning.
It was a really small number, right?
Yeah.
How many dials in an hour, roughly?
From
It's like less than a handful, right?
about 9 to 10 o'clock this morning, I made about 9 calls in an hour. Some of those were conversations.
And that number is actually up from what you last told me. I think I remember it was less than a handful of dials. Not even, and I'm like, how's that possible? Like, how are you making less than a handful of dials in an hour? And then I think, if I remember correctly, part of it was that, well, there's a lot of prep time in between those calls, and there's this and that. And I'm like, no. Like, stop doing that. Like, you're over preparing, you're overthinking here. And then that's when I suggested, look, there's systems out there like Mojo Cells, Call Tools. They're multi-line dialers. Now, there's TCPA laws and all that. And so, like, you obviously want to make sure you know the disclaimers. I'm not an attorney or accountant or anything like that. And so I can't give you any type of advice. Do follow the laws and do things in a way in which you're not going to get in trouble for anything you shouldn't be doing, right? But provided you can use a multi-line dialer, like I think I looked it up on ChatGPT, and you could make a couple hundred dials or more in an hour with a multi-line dialer, right, on average. So now, granted, that there's a little bit of money, $130 a month or whatever it is to invest in that. And so, like, that could help you. You also recently onboarded a virtual assistant. So that can help you, training a virtual assistant to essentially kind of be an order taker to a certain degree and just bring you on a silver platter the appointments and the storage owners that raise their hand and say, hey, I would be open to an offer. I would consider selling my facility, right? We have somebody within our Storage Wins community. We actually have several now that have virtual assistants that are essentially making calls on their behalf and then scheduling appointments for them to follow up and then just collecting some basic information. So if we're in the solutions oriented mode right now, we've already identified the magic wand scenario in order for you to get out more offers efficiently and effectively is coming up with a better system to make offers, using a multi-line dialer or some sort of tool that can help you accelerate that process. We've obviously already talked about not overthinking it, less preparation, more massive imperfect action, i.e. pick up the phone, smile, and dial. And then we talked about like leveraging a virtual assistant and continuing to train that person so that very soon we can get them to the point where maybe when you're sleeping, they're working and they're out there making phone calls. Anything else come to mind?
That's a lot. That's a lot of things that would help make me more efficient with my time.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. We're about 48 minutes into this podcast. Here's what I'd like to do. I want you to pick one of those things. Pick one. And I want you to focus on implementing that solution between now and the next time that we hop on the podcast. And I want to hear the results. Now, it's going to be a short amount of time, obviously. And so we got to allow things to unfold, and we're not going to judge the success or failure of but we need to start putting the right pieces in place. And really what I'm seeing is there are inefficiencies in how you're working. And I also believe that you don't have to pick one or the other. You don't have to pick either A, having meaningful conversations, or B, making offers. You can do both. And part of this, Dan, and we'll probably talk about this in the next, is setting your day up for success. I know in the past we have talked about mapping out your day the day before, making sure that you eat the frog. In other words, the most important things, if you can only get 1, 2, or 3 things accomplished that next day, that needs to be done first, ideally, if at all possible. So we talked about, I think, scheduling 2 hours of outbound calling. I think we talked about 60 to 90 minutes of evaluating deals. And then I think we talked about the balance of the time making offers. Right?
Yep.
So part of, I would throw that onto the solutions is like, hey, here's a way to become more effective is working in sprints, not working in marathons, right? I think it's called the Pomodoro technique, right? Where you're working 50 to 60 minutes on, all distractions turned off, blinders on, you're focused on eating this frog, and then you take a 5 to 10 minute break, back on for 50 to 60 minutes, then you can take a 15 to 30 minute break. And working in sprints and not marathons, you can accomplish more than most people might accomplish in an 8 to 10 hour day. And you tend to get less burned out. You don't have that 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock crashing feeling. And dude, to your credit, you've always been good about waking up early, exercising. So you're doing a lot of the right things. I think what I'm seeing, brother, is part of what's contributing to you not having sent any offers in the last week and maybe only having a handful of meaningful conversations is that I don't really see your day primed and set up for success. Right? The 5 to maybe 6 hours that you have of prime time working hours, there's too much waste in there. There's too much time spent on things that you shouldn't be spending time on.
I agree with that.
You agree? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So look, first step is awareness and acceptance, which you've done. The second thing is identifying, okay, let's become solutions oriented, right? And we've already identified 4 or 5 things. And then the next thing is like, okay, let's massive imperfect action, MIA, right? Let's now pick one of those 4 things. Let's focus on, while you're doing everything else, let's focus on that. The easy one for you is the less maybe not easy, but what I'm encouraging you, that's not even part of the one you're going to focus. Stop overthinking, stop preparing. Get comfortable being able to have a conversation on the fly without having all the information in front of you. I know for you that's going to be a challenge. I need you to start getting comfortable with that process. We hop off this podcast, grab a name and a phone number on your list and call them. Start putting yourself in a position where all you have is the facility name and you're just going to have a conversation. And while you're talking to them, okay, then you can bring up your CRM, you can bring up some of the notes, but I want you to stop over preparing. And the other thing I might encourage you to do is let's simplify the process of getting an offer out. You know, you can use the quick deal analyzer, right? That basically all you do is you input the revenue number, either the monthly revenue number or the annual revenue number, and then based on a certain cap rate, it'll come up with a range offer for you. Right? Yeah. And even if it's a broad range offer, it gets the conversation going and you're going to collect a lot of insight and info as to where the seller's mindset is on price. But we know that in order for you to accomplish this goal of buying your first facility, we know we gotta become more efficient with our time. Let me backtrack. We got to continue to work on our mindset. We talked about that. We got to be more efficient with the time that we have, efficiently productive. There's too much waste in your day right now. And number 3, we got to simplify the process. There's too much friction. And then 4, we got to take massive imperfect action. We got to execute. We got to implement what we've talked about here. And that's streamlining the way we make offers. That's less overthinking, less over preparing. getting comfortable with picking up the phone, having a conversation with the storage owner, continuing to train your virtual assistant and getting better so that you can feel comfortable with them getting to the point where they can potentially have these conversations for you. Maybe considering using a multi-line dialer. Okay, so let's figure out where the leverage points are and let's use them, because right now you're working really, really hard, but you're not working as smart as you could be working.
Exactly. That's how I feel too.
Yeah, I get it. Dude, don't beat yourself up over it. Now that we've identified that and that you agree, right? Let's start to really focus on implementing here moving forward. Massive imperfect action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before we wrap up the podcast here, what's your biggest takeaway and/or what's the word I'm looking for? And/or reflection, and then what do you commit to do between now and the next time that we connect in the podcast?
Takeaway, I think, is realizing how much waste there is in my day and how I need to be focused more on the actions that will move the needle forward. And I know I need to work on that. It's just figuring out how to make that change. And then commitment will be to implement one of these things that you mentioned, as far as talking to more owners, less prep for calls, getting the VA to take on more, and getting offers out more quickly. I'm intrigued by the multi-line dialer and how many calls I'd be able to get out in a day's time by doing that.
Why don't you just, first of all, they may or may not have a free trial. I don't know if they do, if they don't. Why don't you just try it for a month?
Yeah.
Like, what's your risk? $130, $140, $150, right? Like think about how many more phone calls that's going to allow you to make, right? So I'm not necessarily trying to add another expense to your plate right now. You can certainly do without it. And I think it's a way to leverage a tool that can help you increase your connect rate with storage owners and ultimately have more conversations, which is going to lead to more offers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, brother. Hey, man, whether it feels like it or not, this is progress. We just got to continue to build in this. Borrow my confidence. Massive imperfect action. I'm going to continue to say that because it's those that wait for the stars to align and for things to be perfect. Those are the people that oftentimes delay the success or just never get there, never achieve it because they're waiting for things to be perfect. And dude, nothing is ever perfect. Things are very messy, and that's okay. Get comfortable in that mess. I'm not telling you to do anything irresponsible or no. We still got to be thoughtful and mindful and strategic and intentional about how we approach this. And we need more at bats. You got to be like that artist that is you ever seen an artist just grab the paintbrush and then put it in all these different colors? They start going like that to see kind of what comes out. I kind of want you to have a little bit of more of that mindset, right? Let's play outside the sandbox here a little bit.
Yep.
Sound good?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, brother. I will see you. Hopefully as you're listening along here, hopefully a lot of this also applies to you, right? And figure out what aspect of what we have talked about, maybe you can identify with Dan, and whether it be a mindset challenge, right? And I think in some way, shape, or form, I think we all have room for growth, myself included, in terms of expanding our mind, right? It's been said that a mind expanded will never contract. And part of that is by the conversations we have, the environments we immerse ourselves into, the people that we surround ourselves, the coaches and mentors that we choose, the communities that we choose to be a part of, like Storage Wins. Maybe it's something tactical. Maybe it's just the inefficiencies in your day or the distractions, the time wasters, the time suckers, right? Maybe the fact that you need to eat the frog first thing in the morning for you, right? Identifying what that is. What's the small hinge that moves the big door for you in your life and in your business, right? And then it's having awareness, accepting it for what it is and saying, okay, well, this is my plan moving forward. This is what I'm going to recommit to. Being solutions oriented, not just staying in the problem and in the challenge, because every problem or challenge has a solution. And then say, hey, I'm going to focus on this for the next week or the next month, and stay committed to that process. And you're going to tweak, iterate, you're going to learn. It's going to give you feedback. You're going to take massive imperfect action. You're going to get better, tweak, learn, get feedback. And it's this cycle. That's how you grow. Okay. And meanwhile, while you're doing that, the person that's waiting for the stars to align, or is over preparing or overthinking, is trying to think about how to figure it out, and you've already figured out 10 ways not to do it, right? It's kind of the Thomas Edison light bulb thing. It took him 130 something tries, and then he finally discovered, hey, this is how I make a light bulb. So kind of the same thing here, man. All right. Play outside the sandbox, be like that artist, grabbing and throwing things with intention in some direction. We're not just going crazy. And then let's come back. I want you to share the results of that. I want you to increase the number of meaningful conversations, right? And I didn't hear this as a commitment, but I'm thinking that you're strongly considering checking out a multi-line dialer like Mojo sells. Increase meaningful conversations, increase offers. Here's what I want to hear, right? And I'm not sure when we're scheduled to reconnect on the podcast, but I want to hear that you've made at least 3 more offers. And I want to hear that you've had at least a solid 10 to 15 meaningful conversations. I mean, in fact, more like 15 to 20 meaningful conversations. Because if, let's say we're not connecting for another 5 days, you should be having 3 to 4 meaningful conversations a day minimum with storage owners. Sound good? You commit to that?
I do. Sounds good.
All right. Well, you're coming back on here to just basically share with everybody. So if that's not some accountability, I don't know what it is, right?
Yeah. I'll be.
All right. Fantastic. All right, guys. Hey, make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast so that you get notified every single time we have a new show. Make sure that you're plugged in, and I trust that you're getting a lot of value, and we appreciate you coming alongside us here as we work with Dan to help him buy his first facility. Take 1 or 2 things that you got from this episode, speed of implementation, right? Put it to work in your life and in your business so that you can achieve the results that you're after. I'll connect with you on the next one.